All right, let's go ahead and start today's presentation. Just like to welcome everyone to today's Title Topics webinar. This is ALTA's free 30-minute presentation we offer each month to communicate important industry information with our members. I'm Jeremy Yohe, ALTA's Director of Communications, and joining me today we have Rusty Solomon, CEO of Mandarin Consulting. Rusty is a longtime industry veteran, and prior to joining Mandarin, he served as the National Managing Director for a title company, shaping the organization's strategy for its title operations, business process development, national licensing, sales and marketing, compliance, and many other areas. Rusty, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Real quick though, Rusty, before I kick it off with you, just needed to touch on a few housekeeping items. All of our participants' lines are on mute today, just so we don't have the background noise and everyone can hear Rusty clearly. If at any time you do have a question, please use the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to submit the question, and we'll be monitoring that. We will save some time at the end to address your questions. And as an added benefit, today's presentation is being recorded and will be available for download at alta.org/title topics. And again, that address is alta.org/title topics. And with that, Rusty, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. I know you've got a lot of good information to share about strategic planning and what goes into building a plan.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank everybody for joining us today. This is a very complex and dynamic topic, and what I wanted to do today was give everybody a 37,000-foot view of what it is, so that you have a general understanding of the history of it and how it might best suit you. So with that, in the limitation on time, I'm just going to launch right into it. Strategic planning is a misunderstood and often misused term, lacking a well-defined and widely agreed upon definition. Strategy and the planning associated with it has origins dating back to its military usage as early as the 6th century. In the corporate world, strategic planning generally refers to the defining of the organization's go-forward plan for the future and accompanying desired outcomes. The spectrum of corporate strategic planning models and processes is broad, and the term has taken on many different connotations over recent decades. Today's seminar aims to more definitively define the term quote-unquote strategic planning in its corporate context and explores the basic components of what should be done in the planning process to make it worthwhile, which is specifically 1, delivering value, 2, profits to the bottom line, and 3, and most importantly, securing competitive advantage. What is the opportunity afforded by strategic planning? When strategic planning is done well with a mature and robust process that guides the effort to ensure completeness, the outcomes can be powerful and position an organization or title agency to dominate competition. Without strategic planning, you will never dominate. Yet only a small percentage of organizations operate with mature planning and models that yield complete and comprehensive strategic plans. That's why they don't dominate. The majority do not fully operationalize their strategy to get maximum benefit. Fully operationalized strategic plans are more comprehensive, going further than just defining business strategy by addressing all of the actions and resources required to implement the strategy. Some of these items might be timelines for actions, required resources, metrics tied to goal accomplishment, accountability, scenario planning, training, risk mitigation, industry trend analysis, core competency analysis, and core value analysis. All of these items provide the holistic picture of the existing landscape and the organization's proficiencies within it. Such plans allow managers to monitor progress and remove impediments to goal accomplishment. Data suggests that most organizations would certainly benefit from adopting a more formalized approach to strategic planning, and that many companies have routinely failed to successfully and fully implement their strategic goals. A plethora of associations, including the Harvard Business Review, Economist Intelligence Unit, and Kaplan and Norton, suggest that most organizations fail in strategic planning efforts. While the statistics related to the effectiveness of strategic planning appear grim, they can be vastly improved by understanding the discipline of planning and setting a course to improve planning methods by stretching the process further into the operations layer where execution takes place. The root cause of the failure are some of these items, which are poor prioritization, lack of detailed planning to support the strategic goal, poor communication and coordination, poor change transformation planning, strategy and cultural misalignment, strategy and operations misaligned, planned goals lacking accountability, and ill-defined strategic goals. Given the opportunity to better leverage the art and science of strategic planning, organizational leadership should endeavor to understand strategic planning and unlock the competitive advantages it can bring them. Before we explore the definition of strategic planning or discuss what a good planning process should consist of, I need to review the discipline's history and understand its origins, which is very important, and I think you'll get it when I give you this history. And then we'll define what it is. The origin of strategic planning definitively began in the military. It is a military creation and, as mentioned, date back to the 6th century BC. According to Webster's New World Dictionary, strategy is the science of planning and directing large-scale military operations of maneuvering forces into the most advantageous position prior to actual engagement with the enemy. So what I'm saying is that, strategic planning is a military exercise, and that's what business is about. Business is war, and if you don't do something better, your competitor will. Of course, the common business usage and understanding of the word strategy and its application to planning and management has been transformed from a point of military maneuvering to other areas that aim at giving a structural framework to reach a competitive advantage. Business usage of this term strategic planning began in the 60s. The 60s ushered in a new era, and strategic positioning rose to prominence in corporate America. The Harvard Business School contended that strategy could be a potentially powerful tool for linking business functions and assessing a company's weaknesses and strengths. Business as well as consulting companies pioneered tools and techniques related to strategic positioning focused on productivity and profits. This continued through the 70s. Corporate organizations continued to grow in their confidence in strategic planning throughout the 70s. In 1980, Harvard professor and strategic planning guru Michael Porter wrote the groundbreaking book, Competitive Strategy. If you are serious about this, I would buy this book, Michael Porter's book on competitive strategy. 1980 represented a peak in corporate America's interest as confidence in strategic planning for that decade, as the strategic planning popularity began a decline after that. And what was interesting is that the decline in strategic planning from a classical viewpoint rose, and how that rose was through polling. We found out that military strategy books such as The Art of War by Sun Tzu, On War by von Clausewitz, and The Red Book by Mao Zedong became enormously popular reading in this time amongst business circles. So instead of trying to understand what corporate strategic planning was, business leaders were reading books on war. During the 1980s, General Electric's chairman, Jack Welch, became highly influential in a controversial world of strategic management. Although Welch focused on gaining competitive advantage for his organization, he also began downsizing and restructuring GE. His 6 rules are: control your destiny or someone else will, face reality as it is, not as you wish it were, be candid with everyone, don't manage, lead, change before you have to, which I think is extremely important, and if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. The 90s brought about a renewed interest and obsession with strategic planning. Thus far in the 21st century, strategic planning continues an orientation towards gaining competitive advantage, but with the added dimension of developing and nurturing organizational innovation. And organizations look to strategy to help them grapple with issues that include reconciling size with flexibility and responsiveness. Planning has grown more complex. This can be attributed in part to an increasingly interwoven global marketplace, which, as we know, includes offshore outsourcing, and growing number of competitive forces that have accompanied that change. Likewise, planning complexity has been affected by the economic woes of the last 10 years, which have driven business to form many new alliances, partnerships, and mergers. The net effect of these changes has resulted in the need for cooperative strategies. And additionally, the 21st century has brought about change in environmental commitments and corporate social responsibility. Now, faced with the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression, businesses across the board are adopting their behaviors and strategies. Today's strategy planning has transitioned from a process of trying to predict the future to one of looking backward at what we know now, examining current state realities in order to build effective transformation strategies for the future and leveraging lessons learned from the past. I'm going to define strategic planning. I'm going to repeat it twice. Strategic planning is the process of devising a plan of both offensive and defensive actions intended to maintain and build competitive advantage over the competition through strategic and organizational innovation. And that is the process of devising a plan, offensive and defensive, to maintain and build competitive advantage through strategic and organizational innovation. A well-formed corporation strategy lays out the bumper pads to keep organizational momentum aimed in the proper direction, accomplished through unambiguously expressed strategic goals or outcomes, and operational actions to achieve those strategic operational outcomes. At a minimum, for strategic planning to yield competitive advantage, it must address 3 key paramount questions. First, what do we do? Second, who are our customers? And third, how do we do what we do better than our competitors? As a point of clarification, professional service firms such as title agencies generally refer to their customers as clients. Although there is a difference between the term customer and the term client, for simplicity's sake, I will refer to both as customers. Now, what do we do? While it may sound almost silly to suggest that title agencies should expend effort during strategic planning defining what it is that they do, it is not unproductive as it may seem. If a title agency cannot succinctly explain what they do, how will their marketplace or customers understand it? Furthermore, this line of analysis during the planning process uncovers misperceptions on the part of a company's leadership, understanding of core lines of business and market focus. It causes a brainstorming to occur. Strategic planning builds with getting leadership on the same page, but the mission of the title agency and the core offerings the business provides. Additionally, in strategy development, the question of what should we do is a corollary to the what do we do question. This perspective relates to building competitiveness in your offering and exploring tangential markets that might be exploited, provided that barriers to entry are not too high and organizational capabilities match the opportunities being evaluated. Truly gauging core competencies is key to this analysis, not just from leadership, but down through the organization. So what do we do? Are we targeting REO? Are we targeting purchases? Are we targeting refi? Where's the market going? What should we do? Who are our customers? An organization's strategy cannot overlook the most important stakeholder, the customers served by the company. Data analysis of the company's customer base is recommended prior to or as part of the strategic planning process in order to firm up suspicions and debunk any incorrect misperceptions that you may think you may know, but you really do not. Knowing the attribution of organizations' customer profiles helps drive value creation, sales growth, technology and service innovation, and ultimately profits. A thorough understanding of the major groupings segmented by loyalty, profitability, and annual spending will help answers like, what are our customers still buying from us? Rather, why are our customers still buying from us, which is a key question. How stable is that long-term buying relationship? Analyzing whether or not you have a stable relationship is key. How do we do what we do better than our competitors? From an organization to understand its own competitive advantage, it must first examine what I would term its essence of goodness and understand the triggers that compel customers to buy products or services from them instead of a competitor. Is it your service? Is it your technology, pricing, intellectual capital, thought leadership, or something else? What is it? What is your essence of goodness? And that's a very important question. And you need to capitalize on that once you find out what that is. And you need to think about what it is. When we can define and explain our value proposition succinctly, strategic goals related to innovation and value creation can more easily be defined and ultimately implemented. Now, I've given you a history, some stuff to think about on that, and we're going to get into a little bit of some of this murky topic now. We're going to take a deep dive into something called ecosystem analysis. If you have any questions about this, let me know. So ecosystem analysis is what I would term the business ecosystem is comprised of all the functional areas that are involved in developing and delivering the offering to the marketplace. What are your functional areas that are involved in taking that title order and bringing it into an insurance policy? The term originated in 1985 when Harvard's Michael Porter introduced the value chain framework in his book Competitive Advantage, which I suggested that you purchase. From a planning standpoint, it is important to assess how the business ecosystem, all of the things in your business, how they operate, and more specifically, how decisions within one segment of that ecosystem can impact or have consequences on the enterprise as a whole or to specific segments of this chain. This fuzzy term I am now using, ecosystem, really is what are the distinct major components affecting your title agency or your company. Each dimension will likely have planned components that will relate to specific organizational actions. These actions may be offensive, defensive, and proactive in nature. Reactive maneuvers do not fall into the strategic category, but are sometimes required and appropriate. How do you react when when interest rates ascend and we now no longer have refinance transactions occurring? What are you going to do? How are you going to react? That is a paramount question now in this marketplace. Strategic action should be mapped against several dimensions, including value creation, value propositions, brand equity, sales and marketing, industry direction, which is very important, market transitions, which I just mentioned when interest rates go up, innovation, organizational competencies, employee competencies, technology, and contingency. All of these factors need to be examined to properly develop a plan. If you do not have a comprehensive evaluation of all these factors, you are not doing yourself a favor. I'm going to cover these rapidly. Value propositions. In most cases, value creation and the organization's value proposition are linked and are closely related to brand equity as well. Planning in this dimension allows a shift to occur towards the customer's key outcome mindset. Key customer outcomes are measurable results, goals that are oriented to value we can add for our product technology, or service. With the corporate mission and vision statements as guides, the planning process can be adjusted towards reviewing strategy and goals in terms of key customer outcomes such as technology or product or service innovation. How can the organization increase the efficiency of customer interactions? How can we improve the cost effectiveness of our service? How can we develop better client intimacy and grow customer loyalty? These are but a few examples of questions that should be triggered when thinking about strategy with key outcome mindset. Reiterating an earlier point, when an organization can define and explain their value proposition succinctly, strategic goals related to innovation and value creation can more easily be developed and ultimately implemented. Brand equity is the intended outcome of marketing strategies to create name awareness for your technology, products, or services. Strategies to create positive brand equity help strengthen sales, bolster pricing and product margins, promote customer loyalty, and potentially lower customer acquisition costs. Example of brand equity is your tagline on your website. We close loans faster. This is what we're talking about here. Strategic planning models should always include a competitive analysis. Porter's book focuses on 5 force analysis, and they are competitive rivalry, threat from new entrants, bargaining power from substitutes, bargaining power from customers, bargaining power from suppliers. Now, industry direction is so important at this point, and it affects momentum. By studying the movement, direction, and momentum of the industry or industries served by the organization, the data can feed the strategic planning process, leading to better planning decisions. For instance, in the industry, data suggests that competitors enjoying a technological advantage over your firm and that they are steering the industry in a direction that is eroding your market share. What are you going to do about it? If you can't dominate, do you leave? And the answer to that's no. But you have to think of a way to have a competitive advantage in a market where we're becoming high tech. Innovation. To avoid lagging behind customers, title agencies must continue to cultivate ideas for improvements to their, quote, products and services, then harness the best of the innovations into value creation enhancements or altogether new offerings. Organizational competencies, core competencies, are what make individuals and the organization they constitute unique. The competencies are a generic list of skills. These skills are applied to the employee and the organization, then become the foundation for what the organization possesses that set it apart from its peers. You need to do a complete employee assessment of every employee and understand where your strengths and weaknesses are. Core competency is defined as a bundle of skills that enables an organization to provide a particular benefit. A core competency is not a product or service specific. Technology should be touched upon very much so in this market. Technology should benefit the business through increased efficiency in the delivery of products and services, leading to a boost in market value and competitive advantage for the organization. Scenarios and contingencies. Scenario or contingency planning is an extremely important aspect of a strategic planning model. Contingency plans include specific strategies, actions to deal with particular variances to the strategic plan's assumptions. If any of the scenarios or variances do occur, they will likely result in a problem affecting the execution of the plan's goals and their outcomes. A thorough contingency plan should be developed to correspond with each scenario that is considered likely or severe enough to be detrimental to the otherwise normal execution of the plan. Now, I'm going to conclude now because we're running up on that 25-minute mark. But in terms of scenarios and contingencies, I would just leave everybody with one big question. So what happens when the federal government's program to keep interest rates depressed begins to fail or falter, and interest rates start to creep up? And when interest rates creep up, there is going to be a shock to the market, and refinance activity is going to dry up. What are you going to do then? That is what's called contingency planning. So the major contingency now is a spike in interest rates that is going to utterly dry up this market. What are you going to do? And every title agent in the United States should be asking him or herself, that question at this point in time. So that is a paramount contingency scenario. By understanding the discipline of strategic planning and how to manage its execution, organizations can begin improving upon their planning capabilities and systematically building their competitive advantage. In doing so, organizations will measurably improve in performance, decision-making, client satisfaction, and long-term competitive positioning. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Rusty. I think, as you mentioned, you just really kind of scratched the surface on all that could go into building a strategic plan, and you could probably have a week-long retreat on this. And it's interesting that you mentioned, contingency plan. It seems like there's a lot going on, swirling in the marketplace on, if this happens, how is this going to impact my business? We've got talks with the fiscal cliff. Agent vetting has been a big concern. We've got potential new mortgage disclosures coming down the pike. Who actually provides the closing disclosure to the consumer? A lot of moving parts. So, with that, if there's any questions from the participants, as I mentioned before, please submit them through the chat box, and I'm sure Rusty would be more than happy to address any of your questions.
Absolutely.
I have one, Rusty, and we were talking, briefly before the presentation, and as a small operation, and they're so focused on getting the orders, churned out and trying to get new business. How do you find time? How do you carve out time to think, forward and plan ahead?
This was always a challenge, and the prior title agency that I was a managing director for, we were always focused on strategic planning, and we had early morning meetings every morning on planning, and we had weekend retreats. I would suggest, if you're going to have a strategic planning session, that you gather together all your executive management team leads and take a weekend. Just so from 10 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday, we're going to have a brainstorming session about strategic planning for the next year. Time is, I understand, very important, and everybody's very stretched. But it's crucial that you just find a way to do it, and whether it's after hours, or getting off site, a combination of those two things, it's a matter of desire and will, and pushing through the, going upstream, saying, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to be, I'm going to develop a plan, and I'm going to succeed. And we're going to work hard, and we're going to take the time and effort to do it. And I think, it just takes discipline. And those that do not take the time and effort to do this are going to find themselves in a pickle.
You mentioned, and this was an interesting line, capitalizing on your essence of goodness. As you think about, your plan, what components should an agent think about right now? What are the main ingredients they should be focusing on for 2013? Is it having a better plan as far as their technology, their website should be a better plan? Diversifying their products. Where would you encourage agents to focus their attention?
Well, I think that you can't. Rome wasn't built overnight, right? So, I think, classical strategic planning would dictate that, at most you have 5 items that I would be looking at, and whether it's, in technology enhancement, shift in business process, acquisition of better employees and better talent, branding yourself better. I would take, at most 5 distinct areas and I would drill down on those and really understand, where we are with these things, and where we should be with these things, and also one thing I find would be paramount too, is really, like you said, the CFPB and all the rules are going to be changing. The rules of the road are going to be changing, as well. The interest rate is extreme worry to me. At least for me, it's menacing. I'm quite shocked that we're still in this refinance mode, and I think that on the forefront, everybody's so concerned right now with Dodd-Frank, but Dodd-Frank is really going to be meaningless if you don't have any orders. So I would be really focused on a purchase protocol, making sure that you deliver pristine, ultimate customer service, better than your competitors. If you're a national title agency, an underwriter, or whoever, you need to be focused on a national purchase protocol. If you don't have that and you're a national company and refinances dry up, and you don't have the marketing and sales effort to get those purchases, that's going to be a problem. And that's where I would be drilling down right now. I mean, this is what I tell all my clients. Where are you going to be in 3 years when the interest rates are at 5 or 6? What's going to happen then? Are you just going to, fire half your staff and be happy with that? I don't think so. REOs are going to stop. So we're moving into a different market. So I'd be focusing on the marketplace and on Dodd-Frank.
Okay, good advice, Rusty. One more quick question, and we'll wrap it up today. And this is from Carrie, and she's looking at it from the perspective of a small agency and looking to compete against big corporations. And she wants to know how can you predict the consumer's behavior, and then apply that to your company to see where business is going.
It's very interesting. We really don't think in terms of consumers in the title industry. So from my perspective, and I have worked with major institutions on analyzing consumers, and I think that keeping your ear to the ground on what the consumers are doing is very important. B2C, if that's what Carrie's referring to, is not here yet, really, in terms of the title industry. Although I think at some point it will be, and I think Dodd-Frank is going to bring that out, and other factors are going to bring that out. But I think major institutions have done a lot of focus groups, polling, random sampling of consumers, and I don't think the consumers right now are ready to be worried about title insurance as much as anyone would think. So that's the best I can do on that question.
No, good advice, Rusty, and Carrie as well. Watch our information coming from ALTA and through Title News Online. We share information as far as trends in the marketplace, and who are the buyers now, and where like National Association of Realtors, where they're seeing the market going in years ahead. Rusty, I don't think we have any other questions, unless there's anything else you'd like to add. I just want to remind everyone that today's presentation will be available for download at alta.org/title topics. Any questions, feel free to reach out to Rusty. Rusty, if you want to forward the slide one more, his contact information will be there. You can also feel free to reach out to me. My email is jyohe@alta.org. And Rusty, thanks again for joining us. Hopefully everyone on the call can walk away with a little bit of advice on how to start building their plan.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Thank you.